whole lot of things to discuss. Therefore, we go strictly over to him. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. It's been a long time since I've been on the radio.
Yeah, that's
But
like
thank you for
almost a year
inviting
or
me.
so. Almost a year or so.
Yeah, almost a year.
What have you been up to?
I've been working very hard in the Senate with colleagues. As you know, I'm also a farmer, a medium-sized farmer, so I've also been busy with that.
Okay, now, a couple of days ago, I read a communication from your committee
Yes.
to the pro temp of the Senate, opportuning some other reports that you went through and some recommendations to her. You want to tell us about that?
Yes. So this is a great opportunity to catch up with you and the listening audience. I'm very active on my social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram. The letter you read last week was the consolidated report from the Joint Public Accounts, Expenditures and Audit Committee. You will recall that last year, before the crisis in the House, we started public hearings into audit reports that were on the shelves before we came in. So as a joint committee, we made the decision to go through those reports, and we held a series of public hearings on 12 different audit reports in the joint chambers of the legislature that got burned. And it is that report that we have now finalized after going through the report thoroughly, with expert advice, and then collaborating with the GAC, reviewing all of the transcripts from all of the hearings. We believe that the report is now ready for action by the legislature, and then onward forward into the President of the Republic of Liberia.
You highlighted a whole lot of disturbing findings
Yeah.
in the report. But give us a general overview of the things you saw.
So, first of all, I think holistically, the reports, highlight the weak governance, systems that we have. I think this is across the board. But one disturbing discovery from these hearings, from these other reports, is that our SOEs are operating on their own. So it's about time that, the president, the boards of these SOEs can really get into corporate governance mode with strong oversight from the legislature. This is important in a sense that they are, in some instances, operating outside of the public financial management law. In some instances, they are even evading tax payment. For example, they are not remitting personal income taxes that they are collecting.
Withholding.
Yeah, on behalf of the LRA. And in some cases, as we discover with LORC and other areas, they are not even contributing to Social Security, and some of the people are nearing retirement. In their mind, they are working for public corporations, and when they retire, they should have a nest egg, that they can live on until they depart from this world. That's not happening. So we are looking at a rising storm in terms of, accountability in the future if we don't address that now.
So some of these things were weeks ago highlighted by the now suspended head of the Bureau of State-Owned Enterprises, Arcelor Mittal, talking about lack of report, wasteful spending, and all those things on the part of SOEs.
I don't know the reason for the self-financial, malfeasance and so on, and I wish Brother Massaquoi well. I hope he can, answer all the questions around the allegations that have been levied against him. But before that, he and our committee had been working together. We communicated with him, picking up on the Minister of Finance's report on the consolidated fund for last year, which is on the ministry's website. By law they are supposed to report that to the legislature, and I read every report. I'm not bragging, this is a fact. So I read the report, we summarized it for the committee, and one thing that came up of that report was that out of 18 state-owned enterprises in Liberia, only about 5 reported their financial plans and financial statements to the Ministry of Finance at the end of last year. So
that is concerning.
That's concerning. And then to exercise our oversight, what we did was to immediately communicate with the Bureau of State-Owned Enterprises to say, hey, this is what the Minister of Finance is saying. We need to know from you the state of SOE reporting to the ministry through you, because that's what you're there for. We need to know that. We need to see their financial plans for last year and this year. The committee is flexible about last year in a sense that the transition happened in January. It took some time for the president to complete his government. So, we have to be flexible on those type of things. But into 2025, we needed to know what their financial plans were, what their projected revenues and expenses were, and what will be their profit, and what they intend to do with that. In some cases, we expect them to contribute some of the profit as dividends to the Liberian people through the budget to allow the government to do development programs. And in case they need to reinvest in infrastructure or other things in order to grow the past so that they can be viable and contribute more in the future, we also needed to see that. In this instance, we were not able to do that. Director Masakwe responded to us expressing his frustration with the SOEs, and then we asked him to tell us what were his plans and how we could help him. So there was a dialogue going on, and then all of a sudden this happened.
Yeah. He went at the Ministry of Information, made some very damaging claims against the SOEs, and he didn't stay long when he didn't stay long
and move from there. I don't want to speculate anything, but I just want people to know that the Public Accounts Committee and the Liberian Senate were getting very good responses from Director Masakwe to help us understand what was going on with our state-owned enterprises, to help us help the president and the boards of these SOEs to really hold the MDs and the management teams accountable for results and accountable to transparency, to tell us what was happening in those institutions.
Now at least one of the institutions is still being run by actors. Is that not concerning to the Senate? People who should have come to you for hearing are still acting.
Julius, we raised this issue as a Senate when those announcements were made by the president. But this will and pleasure of the president is constitutional, and so it gives the president a lot of leeway to deal with it. But we hope that President Boakai will understand that he no longer has 6 years, and he needs to have people fully appointed in those,
because it is over 1 year 2 months since they were appointed to act.
Because it could potentially raise questions about his about governance, political governance, accountable governance, and so on and so forth. You can't keep people acting in this position for too long. We hope that he will act and appoint people permanently soon in areas where this is happening.
And this takes us into the whole idea about budget deficit, possible revenue deficit. The first quarter, LRA is reporting about 22.0 something million. Not raised. You have been in that before. In fact, you were famously called budget shortfall minister.
Correct.
So you are well positioned to tell us how these things really happen. Even though I've listened to explanations from you before, I try explaining those things to the public, but you are better positioned to tell us what's going on.
Yeah. So I was given that label because I was very transparent with the budget. But politics is politics. People were not used to budget deficits, which we call here budget shortfall, meaning that you project revenues that you don't raise, and then you spend. The government has to run. You spend, for the period, hoping that the next period will be better and you can make up. This is just the way government runs. When you look at the United States budget deficit, it's in the trillions, and Republicans and Democrats run on that, promising to close
to cut it down,
and all of that. And I think President Trump presented his beautiful, quote-unquote,
beautiful bill,
beautiful bill, where he has reduced a lot of spending, but still the deficit is not covered. It's not a balanced budget, especially if you are expanding your economy. So in our case, after the war, automatically we should be pursuing, expansionary fiscal policy, not contractionary. We only do contractionary in a case when Ebola came, when COVID came, and so on. You contract and so on. So I just wanted to set that context for the rational people listening, because everybody will now understand what I'm trying to say here. But in the case of the recent report, we have engaged the Ways and Means Committee to see if this is accurate. They said they have not received such report from the LRA yet. Even today we talk about it. I said I was coming to the show and this issue will be discussed. But talking to insiders within the Liberia Revenue Authority, they have struggled, in the beginning of the year to meet their targets, and all of it is not just due to economic fact. Of course, revenue is a function of the economy. We see that the economy is growing maybe 3.3 to 4%, right? But our needs are higher. So when we don't give them, when I say them, the LRA, all of the tools they need, the resources they need in order to go after taxes the way that they should in order to meet their target, then we have to share some of that responsibility.
Yeah, that was highlighted in their executive summary, their challenges.
Exactly. So we need to come back. Hopefully the president comes back, he hears about this, it gets his attention. We in the legislature are also concerned. We are, working with the Ways and Means to see if we can sit down around the table to talk about rebalancing the budget in a way that some of the resources will be pushed to the LRA to better empower them to raise taxes so that we can finance the government.
We've not been able to reach $1 billion. I don't think we've ever had $1 billion budget, have we?
Domestic revenue, in terms of money we raise as a government, no. But when you combine what we raise versus what we get externally, yes.
Okay.
Above the line, below the line.
Okay. So, but have we ever had $1 billion budget before?
We've never had $1 billion budget before that is acted on by the legislature. That's what I said something. We have never had that.
Okay. Good.
There's all this ambition to do that. The possibilities are there.
What are they?
Well, first of all, we need to look at our economy today and restructure it versus the economy we inherited after the war, and all of our economic interventions have been in response to that. For example, when you look at the economy, the structure of the economy in 2006, when the first UP government came to power, they needed to do certain things in order to attract investment to jumpstart the economy. We needed to invest heavily in security, to send the signal that the country was safe for investors and so on. UNMIL was here. The U.S. contributed to rebuilding the police. The UN worked with us, the military for the U.S., for the police. The UN worked with us to rebuild our police and so on and so forth. Then over time, we saw that our security expenditure was in the 100 millions, right? So the presence of UNMIL across the country created the sense of stability. And then the risk takers like the Arcelor Mittals of the world and China Union and other concessionaires that came here, Golden Valerium, Sam Darby and so on, they have left now, all came in. Our ability now to keep them here in a way that we don't overstretch them to send a signal to future investor that, hey, when you go to Liberia after a certain while, they just come after you, is one thing. Is difficult. So the low-hanging fruit there is to look at our investment framework, our incentive framework, because we give us so much incentives that should have come to the budget to them, given the time that they came in. All of the things that in there was very difficult. It's been 23 years. It's about time that we sit down as a government. Our proposal in a letter again we wrote to the Senate 2 weeks ago was that we do this as one government, right? We engage the executive, the economic management team. We begin to look at the framework. As I speak to you, I came here from a public hearing with Arcelor Mittal, Minister of Mines, not land anymore, Minister of Public Works, Ministry of Finance, NIC, NBC, on justice on one side of the government, and Arcelor Mittal about their operation in Liberia, right? So we need to do that with the mindset that we will look at our incentive framework with HPX coming. After we get all of the details of that deal, what kind of incentives are we giving them that is not going to shortchange us, from this $1 billion drive, budget drive that we want. So I think this is where it is. That's one. The second one is to look inside the economy on the Liberian medium to small size, companies that are here, to see what we can do in the existing budget to support those people so that they can expand and contribute more to revenue. I think this is where we have struggled, because we have a small business law that was passed here, I believe, in 2018 or something like that. That law allocates a percentage of goods and services in the budget to Liberian-owned businesses.
Difficult to implement. I remember you were one of those championing it.
Correct. And recently, we flagged that in the Senate as well, that it's about time that we bring in commerce, we bring in finance, we bring in, all of the actors, the Liberia Business Association and so on. We know that it's not being implemented. Then we need to now come together to see what kind of framework we should put in place to ensure that the 25% of goods and services, which is between $60 to $100 million, easy, that's supposed to go to Liberian-owned businesses, but we don't know if that is happening or not. So everybody's complaining, but just think about it. If we were committed to pushing about $100 million of the $800 million budget that we have solely to Liberian-owned businesses, I think we will be putting them in a position where they can expand.
And that is not like giving them free money, but paying them for services that they render.
It's not free money, So if we were to say no, we should not buy any stationery from government from Lebanese or Indians. Okay, the Liberians will go and then bring those here, and they could come together, get some capital and start to produce papers and pencil and stuff here. I mean, that's the way to go. We have to be intentional. We started this drive when I was Minister of Finance. Even we started with furniture to see, look, we know that the Liberian furnitures are not perfect, but let's start. So for the 4 years and few months that I spent as Minister of Finance, you can ask anybody in the Ministry of Finance, all of my furniture were Liberian made. They were crooked because they didn't dry well, but I used them for forever. Every time they get crooked, we'll fix them. And I try to encourage my deputies to do the same. Hopefully that we can start a culture of using our locally produced furniture and support that sector, because it has potential. We have wood that people are cutting. We go to the freeway in Somalia Drive. You'll see a big shop there.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we need to do is to.
I think there has been some remarkable improvement in what they are producing these days.
Yes, I mean they are adding value. We just need to. The market has to be there for their product. And who is the biggest, the biggest customer in this country? Is the government.
talking about the HPX, the Arcelor Mittal, and all of these companies, and you were talking about not overstretching them, but also there is a whole lot of concern that they may have allegedly been undercut in the country as well. For example, it was revealed yesterday that in 2013, they dropped the government's equity share in Arcelor Mittal from 30 to 15% because they said they were expanding and the government did not put money there and all of that. People are concerned about after all of these resources should have left the country. What can we point to?
I think it's a legitimate question, and this is where we need to look at, revisit the framework. I think it's about time to say the Liberia 20 years ago was different. The Liberia today is different from Liberia 20 years ago. We made some policies, some laws 20 years ago because we were not in a favorable position. So we had to give up so much in order to attract people with the capital to resuscitate the economy. So now that we have them here 20 years later, we need to really sit down as we anticipate the renewal of some of these agreements or the amendment to some of them to say, okay, we give incentives for this, we give incentives for that, but we believe that they have operated enough maybe to break-even point or maybe above, beyond break-even point. We need to take some of that back. They need to pay taxes on those things in order to grow the budget. Yeah, that is a decision that will have to be made collectively by the government, but it will have to be supported by truthful analysis and data. Like now at Arcelor Mittal's hearing, I was there. Nobody on the government side got any information about the value of the concentrator plant that they built recently, they commissioned recently to beneficiate iron ore for shipment. Abroad.
That is concerning.
From the government side, NBC, Lands and Mines, Mines,
Energy,
Public Works. No one on the government side could tell us senators that they knew even back of the envelope cost of this plant. So Arcelor Mittal was presenting before I came here. Hopefully we will get some information on that. These are some of the things we're talking about in governance. Where has the NBC been all these years? That's why we created the NBC for compliance, to enforce compliance. You don't wait until lawmakers raise these issues, then you come and say we don't have the report. You flag it to them, and then they either give you teeth to do it, or they themselves can call them like we did today for them to tell us why they're not doing it. And it's not just Arcelor Mittal. It is with Western Cluster, it's with Beer Mountain, it's BioChico. Is all the companies that are operating in this country.
How is BioChico? Are they doing something better in those parts?
Well, we know that they were working on a barge port, in Bomi, right in the Sastan area. It's a condition for them to do that, to evacuate ore. In their MDA, they should have used the China Union track, the Bonmar track, to bring ore into the port in their original MDA. But to build the rail from the mining site to connect to that rail, they said they didn't have the capital. So the shortest distance then is the shore, the Atlantic shore in Sastan in Bomi County there. So the idea was to build a barge port there where a ship will come and dock in the high seas, and then smaller vessels will come and evacuate the ore. That will create some jobs and stuff for our people so that they can sell. But then what they did, they managed to get a permit from the Ministry of Transport, originally with the President's approval, to move the iron ore by road. I think the President realized later that he was probably ill-advised about that, and he pulled it back. So right now, BioChico is not actively doing anything until they can finish that barge port.
Let's talk about rising cost of living, unemployment, prices rising, some prices rising, and all of that. How concerning is it to you?
Not just to me, but to my colleagues in the Senate. I think several senators have raised this issue. The issue was raised mainly by my colleague, Senator Boakai, several months ago. But then other senators started to feel this in our respective counties. So as prices are set here in Monrovia, by the time the commodities get to our people,
they are worse.
They are worse. So the Commerce Committee did an extensive work with commerce and other, actors in commerce and industry, and came back with a report clearly establishing that major commodities, the prices for major commodities were rising, and it was about time for us to intervene. We had the first hearing with LPRC, as you know, last week or so. Mm-hmm. They raised the price of fuel. We wanted to know why. They gave us their justification. Of course, the crisis in the Middle East between Iran and Israel affecting the strip that ships use.
Yeah, the strip of Hormuz.
Hormuz, yes. Mm-hmm. To get something out. Yeah, we agree on that. But then here, FPRC, has its own charges. They are also charging on evaporation and other things. We are saying that perhaps we could work with them for them to take some hit, for now, and then invest in technology to, reduce evaporation, and maybe that cost can come off. But then when you look at other commodities, outside of Monrovia, it's hard on our people. You and I know historically that the rainy season is a much difficult economic season for our people. This is when people have just made their farms, they've scratched their farms, so the rice is gestating now, it's growing now, and then they're not going to harvest until sometime in November, early November. So between now and that time is going to be when families are going to need a lot of support from their government to make things easier for them. Now, I'm not talking about dishing out cash to them because we don't have a welfare program, but we have to look at our policies here in Monrovia in the context of the entire country, because majority of our 5 million people live outside of Monrovia.
And maybe having better roads there, as the government is pushing on its roads agenda, certainly could make it easier.
Absolutely. All of us in the road business, the government is doing its best, and I applaud them for that. Some lawmakers are intervening for their people, but these are dirt roads. We call them lateral roads. When they reinforce 1 or 2 times, then they get worse, especially where the fillings were done with dirt and so on. Even when you compact it, when they reinforce there, then it becomes a problem. So this is the challenge all across the country. But I think there are some places that were impassable 2 years ago that are passable now, even if it is not perfect. But by and large, the country is largely challenged with road infrastructure.
Hundreds of thousands of the young people, especially, who voted for this government, they were hopeful of jobs, whether in public or private sector. Unemployment is still a very major issue.
You couldn't have said it better. It's a big issue, and it was a subject of one of our debates today in the plenary when the Labor Committee came back with its report on the issuance of work permits, about 10,000 of them, to non-Liberians for jobs that Liberians could potentially do. This was raised by Senator Darius Dillon several months ago, but it became an issue for the Senate recently. And we held several hearings, some committee hearings and some public hearings. And today the committee came back with this report. Basically, the Labor Ministry was saying that they needed to contribute to revenue and so on and so forth. Our argument is that that's not your core business. Your core business is to make sure that you bridge the gap between the job seekers and the employers. And you need to inform the government how many jobs we are creating from these big companies we've attracted into the economy, and work with civil service agency and the private sector company to create a job portal where Liberians with skills can go and apply for jobs. Look, last week as I drove into work, I saw a group of young people at the ministerial complex, And I asked the question, what were they doing there? I thought there were some demonstrators or so on. They said, no, they were job seekers, vacation job seekers. They had gone there to apply for 1,000 jobs that was advertised, I believe by the Labor Ministry, vacation jobs within the public sector. So, more than 5,000 people went there. Julius, when I was Minister of Planning, we did a study with the International Labor Organization, Julius under Dr. Liberty at the time, and then Labor Ministry, I believe it was Nito, Minister Nito Lai.
Nito Lai, yeah, I think so too.
So that study revealed to us at that time that every year 64,000 Liberians were ready to enter the labor force. All the people who graduate in the country, with some skills, plus the young people who were above 18 and were ready as men and women to work, were looking for work, could not find work. So that was back then.
What can the government do? What can you recommend?
Well, I think we need to really enforce the labor aspect in our agreements, to make that a condition for the incentives we've given them. This is where we need to review the incentives and say, okay, you promised to give 50,000 to create 50,000 jobs.
Those
not happening.
Those can just be not many jobs, or others who say in the service sector, tourism, and those other areas. Can I try the whole lot of?
That's true, but we have to start with what we have.
Okay.
Right. We have some things. We have a private sector, but we don't know the number of jobs that private sector is creating. We need to know first.
Why for a very long time, governments have not been able to have that kind of data.
The job of the Labor Ministry is to tell us every quarter, right, the job situation in the country. That's how it's done.
Yes, that's how it should be.
Now, if you can't do it, you work with LEGIS, because LEGIS is a statistical institution for our country. You need to coordinate. That is why I think Labor Ministry is on the LEGIS board. So, this is the governance part that we need to address. We need to be able to say the whole public sector in this quarter, right, employ this number of new people. The private sector, the mining sector, the agriculture sector, the forestry sector, the industry sector, the hospitality sector, the hotels, people work in the hotels, but we don't know. They look for people to work in restaurants, and waiters and so on. We don't know. And we don't know because our institutions are supposed to collect the data for us are not doing that, and nobody's holding them accountable. That was the debate today. In addition to the 10,000 jobs, something we were debating today. We said it's about time that the committee aggressively goes beyond the 10,000 work permits that we have been debating on. Don't issue it to non-Liberians anymore. Don't raise any revenues on them. Those jobs should go to Liberians. In addition to that, you need to start collecting statistics, job statistics, from all the companies that are operating in Liberia that are on the tax roll.
I think that should not be difficult, because all these companies have their HROs. They have all of those documentations of how many people working.
You just send the forms around
with them.
You send the forms around and you make a requirement 3 months.
And
every 3 months you get a report.
And maybe you could have a portal that they could report through.
Exactly.
It just aggregates all
exactly, and that's the form, like an online form. Every 3 months you go in there, you fill it in, it's secured and so on. It goes automatically to the reporting agency that will analyze it. In my case, Labor Ministry should have a strong statistical department headed by a director, the current legislative director, my brother Gafwan.
Yeah.
Okay, was at Labor at some point, right? So he's at a legislature now. So they need to work together on this type of analysis, so that the country and the young people know that jobs are available in this company, in this area, in that area, through a portal that they can apply to and hopefully get. I know that who in this place can play a role, But by starting from somewhere over time, companies will be going for merits over who you know.
His name is Amara Konneh, Senator of Gbarpolu County. We have him here. We're discussing a whole lot of things. I'm not sure we can deal with everything that I have outlined, but let's try. Recently, not very long ago, there were issues at the House of Representatives brought the legislature to near paralysis. That has been resolved now. What are the lessons learned? What can you say?
Well,
in terms of the rule of law and everything else tied to it.
First of all, it's unfortunate that happened, and I feel bad that some of our colleagues have been implicated in the fire incident and so on. But that period, in my humble opinion, caused more harm to the country because it paralyzed our governance processes. And even recently, the new speaker, the new HOR had to do something to legitimize the budget that they voted on when they were just a majority. That just tells you that, constitutionally we were in some violation. But it's fixed now. We're making progress. I just hope that we can focus on the business for which we've been elected to conduct. And I see that things are moving now. I don't know much about the personal relationships in the House of Representatives, but the Senate, this particular term, this sitting has been very, very active. Pro Tem has challenged the committee. The committees are working, and we are flagging a lot of issues. But at the end of the day, our oversight means nothing if we don't coordinate well within the executive branch to hold people accountable.
President Boakai is currently in the United States.
Yes.
You have sat in some of those meetings. You have prepped leaders for some of those meetings and all of that. The display on yesterday, before going, the Ivanhoe thing, the multi-user reel. Let us start from there. Do you see a connect between that visit and the whole whatever was signed with Ivanhoe that is not yet with you people?
Well, Julius, I have to say, first of all, that I wish President Boakai well in Washington. I think some people have, most people are looking at, President Trump's reaction to President Boakai yesterday when he said that he spoke good English and where was he educated and so on and so forth. I look at it as a good thing in the sense that this is a different President Trump than the President Trump we had in the first term of the Trump administration, where he called African countries shitholes and so on and so forth. That's number one. Number two, since he became president this term, that's the best compliment he's giving any African who is not an Afrikaner from South Africa. Just think about it. He humiliated the South African president. And he was pro-Afrikaner when Elon Musk was with him. And so President Boakai yesterday, when people argue about his experience, I think this is where he displayed it yesterday. He's been doing this for over 60 years. That he's not called Ambassador Boakai for nothing. I think yesterday he displayed the key diplomacy skills, where his tone and the window he had to deliver his short speech before the camera, and he stayed within that time frame. You'll recall that President Trump was frustrated with other leaders with time and all of that. That's one. Two, among the 5 presidents who were invited to the White House, President Boakai is the only Anglophone, English-speaking president among them. The rest were French and Portuguese, Guinea-Bissau. So
and then maybe Arab,
correct,
Mauritania,
Arab and French. So he went through a couple of them before he got to the Liberian president. And when the Liberian president spoke perfect English, President Trump was surprised by that. Let me tell you, for those of us that God bless to go to school in America and work in corporate America, we face similar condescending statement from white Americans because prior to the year 2000, some of the stories coming out of Africa is that we black people slept with animals, and so on and so forth. So when they saw some of us really doing better than they were doing, they will ask questions: how did you learn to do this? Where did you learn to do? Do you do this over there? All that. This is just the typical white America that is ignorant about what's happening in Africa. And Mr. Trump, I don't think he's ever been to Africa. Maybe he was not properly briefed that Liberia was an English-speaking country and so on and so forth. So I don't think we should look at that. But on the good side, is the nicest thing he said about any African who was not an Afrikaner since he became president. Back to HPX. We were all shocked. HPX is not a secret in Liberia. It's been here. You will recall that when I became senator, I raised a couple of issues about HPX. It's on my Facebook page. I felt that to pay about $37 million to the government based on a framework agreement that was not ratified by our legislature.
That means the previous government.
The previous government. That agreement did not benefit from any deep consultation, and the money was used to finance government budget without approval by the legislature. For me, I had an issue with that as a private citizen at the time. I was hoping that our government would look into that to make sure that nothing fishy happened to anchor us, to force us to a deal. But we have a government elected by the people, and they have negotiated with them in good faith, we hope, to get to the point where they have a deal now where they can operate in Liberia, particularly the rail that we have in Nimba County, so they and Arcelor Mittal can operate on that with the hope that they will be shipping from Guinea through Buchanan Port to the market. It's good for Liberia, in my view. But we need to see the economic analysis there. How does they help us to reach our $1 billion budget goal? Because it's a new investment. It would be it would be perhaps the biggest investment if this deal is signed in the last 6-7 years. Okay. Because the former government, unfortunately, was not able to attract investors in the country. Then we're talking about jobs for young people. We're talking about revenue shortage and so on and so forth. Our population is growing while our economy is stunted. Unless we can increase growth and hopefully double it in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll be having the same problem here. But I just could not understand the secrecy around it. Why would the Liberian people know about this negotiation through the U.S. Embassy? Why was it signed on the weekend without any press presence, a day or two before the president flew to Washington? So when we talk about openness and accountability and so on, this is where you create more suspicion in a country where the people don't trust their government, well, because of things that have happened before. So I said on my Facebook page yesterday that yes, the government has confirmed that they signed this. It is now to the government to disclose the details of this deal to the Liberian people.
Because there is still that issue of the multi-user nature of that road that Arcelor Mittal still has an agreement to.
Correct.
With the government. 5 years still to go.
Yes. Now, the agreement will tell us how they intend to deal with that. So I don't want to speculate on an agreement because, Julius, I haven't seen it. I'm just as surprised as you and the rest of Liberia were when we heard about this. I know we discussed it among us senators. But I think it would be good for me as a lawmaker, somebody who will have the opportunity to debate this, to wait for the agreement, read it, do my own analysis, and then, draw a conclusion on them. But the fact that we, just like the Americans, since the end of our war, we find secrecy in government to be repugnant. If one thing that we have achieved as a country on the soft side of governance is that all of our things is in public. You can agree or disagree. You can accuse, and people can provide clarification. But we've always put everything in the open. And I say we wait. Our president is coming in the next few days. Hopefully, he will give us, an update on his meeting in Washington beyond just what we saw yesterday. Like you said, I've been there.
Yeah, and finally, we'll take some calls.
Yeah.
When he was president-elect, you were part of his delegation to the U.S.
Yes.
That was another administration.
Yes.
Do you think, given what you know, and you have bigger ears than some of us, what you're hearing now, you have sources in Washington and other places, do you think there is going to be something positive coming out of there?
I think so. I think President Boakai, what happened during the transition period, he built relationship in Washington. Some of the people may not be in government now, but they're still there. They are his friends. Trust me. And there are people in the Trump organization who are also his friends, especially the religious advisor to President Trump, right? So he has friends in Washington, D.C. To get an invitation to the White House is an honor. And when you enter the White House, there are three phases in the meeting. In the beginning, the president might walk with you in the White House yard to enter, and then when you're sit down inside the White House, they bring the White House press corps, like they did yesterday, to broadcast the public aspect of the meeting. And then after that, the serious discussions are held in camera, mostly in the Oval Office. My understanding is that President Trump had bilateral meeting with each of the presidents.
Okay.
And then I know that our president met with him in private. You and I will never know what was discussed there until our president comes and speaks to us through the media directly or issue a statement so that we know what was agreed to over there. But I don't think he just went over there for a group meeting. I think the United States has specific interest in Liberia on top of our historical relationship, especially in the light of aid cuts, to our country. We should embrace the fact that President Trump is shifting now from aid to trade. And we have a basin here that we've been doing exploration on in terms of oil. The American companies.
He mentioned oil, he mentioned minerals.
Exactly. We have this HPX deal, which is an American company that is potentially, as we've heard, has a mine in Guinea, and they're supposed to be exporting through Liberia, assuming that the Guinean government agrees to this. All of this could add benefit to our economy, but we don't know the value of that benefit.
His name is Amara Konneh, Senator, Gbarpolu County. Let's take few calls, just few. We're already out of time. 777-700-995, 995-995. Sorry, folks, but it was important to talk a whole lot. Welcome. Let's hear you.
Journalist Julius Jeh. This is journalist of Tyler Toga Williams, former Vice President of Liberia.
Go ahead.
I attentively listened to the former finance minister, the senator from Gbarpolu County, who happens to also be my friend. Mr. Senator, I listened to you attentively. One thing that grabbed my attention is the meeting you had with the LPRC. I don't want to talk about our impression of the Unity Party government and all those rigmarole to play some lip services and some politics. Why it is true that we have some level of disappointment. Mr. Senator, you said that the meeting with the LPRC boss was at a point where he clarified and told you why there are increase in the price of petroleum product on the Liberian market. Are you convinced with the explanation of the LPRC managing director looking the world is a global place where all of us can do our natural and other research? Can you put yourself on record that what the LPRC does convince you of is reality of the day?
Okay.
Do we have an increase of price or not?
Okay. Thanks so kindly. International, there's increase of price. Welcome. Let's hear you. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Okay, we lost you out. Let's go international. Let's see who's here. Welcome. Let's hear you.
Good afternoon, Julius, and good afternoon to Senator Konneh. My name is Jacob Cousin, and I call you from North Dakota, USA. Senator Konneh, I follow most of your writings on Facebook. I see most of the things you do. But I just have two quick questions to ask you, Senator. One, what does it take the Senate to review all of the different concessions that have been do bad concessions that have been affecting our people? That's one. And to make a very strong recommendation to the executive to add on. The next question is, what become of those counties that people are heavily money in? For instance, Cayman County, where they are doing all of the different money. What plans are you people making for our people? Because they don't even have safe drinking water. They don't have hospital to go to.
Okay.
After the companies are left, what plans are you people making for our people?
Thanks so kindly. I have some similar question, but he will answer. Let's take this other international call. Welcome. Let's hear you quickly.
Hey, Dr. T, how are you?
Fine. Go ahead.
This young brother, Senator Konneh, is a good man.
What is your name?
I'm a Patrick Soa.
Go ahead, Patrick.
The young brother is a good man. I've been following him long time ago. His fight has always been the people. And that's one of the reasons I follow him long time. And Senator Konneh, I'm using this medium to say to you that don't give up on your fight. Our people, how can our programs, how can our policies, how the education we come here to get, the speeches we make, how can these things trickle down on our people?
Thanks so kindly, Patrick. Because of time, let's take another international one. You're there in the States. Let's take this one that looks like it's from France. Welcome. Let's hear you.
Good afternoon.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Hello. Okay, it seems you're not there. Let's see who's on this end. Welcome. Let's hear you. Quickly, I have to go back to him.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Jeh.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yes, turn. We ain't got enough time, please.
Yeah, I think you are gave me a couple of things, Mr. Amara Konneh. Thank you for your deliberation. You spoke well. Whenever you are on the radio, I'm always eager to listen to you, and I love the way you answer the question. You're very relaxed, but my concern is, are you still supporting the government because you are one of the key factors?
Okay, are you still supporting the government? He got that. Let's take this overseas one. Welcome quickly. Let's hear you. Hello.
Yeah, Julius, it's Frank James. The line went up.
Yeah, quickly.
Honorable Konneh was asking, there are reports that you people use 108 million United States dollars in 24 months. We are talking about 108 million United States dollars on 103 lawmakers. Honorable Konneh, are you people that shame at time with? Are you people that sorry for the Liberian people, the money which the Liberian people living? Even your people in Gbarpolu, the way they live, you don't sorry for those people.
Okay, thanks. So kind of go back to him. He will respond to those. So the concern was about your budget over 2 years. He's saying the report is around 108 million plus. So yeah, you can just answer. We have just 2 minutes to do that.
Okay. So thank you all. Williams, I know him. He's my friend. We used to exercise together, but it's been a long time since I've seen him. On the issue of LPRC, I cannot say definitively that I buy everything they told us, and that is why we have asked for additional review of their pricing chart that they share with us. And I think it's important for them to educate the public about their chart. There are things that are beyond the LPRC control. They are called external factors. Prices change in the oil industry depending on situations in the oil-producing countries that are beyond our control. They cannot control that. Based on that, the cost of lending the fuel in Liberia will go up. I mean, you'll recall that being, MD12 went at it when, they made that decision last year that I believe cost us a lot of money in the revenue. For a fresh year government, we needed every dime we could get in order for President Boakai and the government to work and deliver for the people. But there are things within their control. For example, the charges that they add, for storage and so on. We could work with them to reduce some of that, to put a human face to the policy, the evaporation cost, and there are other costs as well. So they have agreed to work with the Senate Committee on Hydrocarbon on that. Hopefully we will follow up. I'm now on that committee, but we'll follow up with Chairman Snow and his committee members to make sure that perhaps we can resolve that before we close for recess. So I hope I have attempted to address your concern there. It's public policy. I cannot be definitive about the information they gave me until I counter check. For my brother from North Dakota, thank you. It doesn't take much for the Senate to review the concession agreement. I think what we can do is to exercise our oversight responsibility without doing the work of the executive. I think we should start with the executive branch, those institutions that we've created to enforce compliance, to make sure that the agreements they send to us that we ratify in the legislature are being fully implemented. We start with that first. They are the ones that are supposed to be collecting the data and furnishing us with that information. Like I said during my deliberation, that arm on the executive branch is very, very weak. And when we begin to jump over the institutions we've created to do certain jobs, and we the lawmakers just want to do all of that, I'm not sure if we have the expertise in the Senate to do that kind of work that the NBC, the NIC, and other institutions supposed to do. But you are right, and I think that's the conversation that is happening now. Like I talk about AML, we've been raising issues about Western Cluster, about Bear Mountain, and so on. I'm aware of...
Yeah, Senator, we just have one more minute.
Yeah, I'm aware of what's happening in these counties where they are operating, and I think we'll keep doing our best to hold them accountable. Patrick, thank you so much for your kind words. And somebody asked if I'm still supporting the government. Of course, I support the government for Liberia, but I just wanted people to be clear that, I was a lawmaker and there was a clear separation of power from the government. All the things they've sent to the legislature that is in the best interest of the Liberian people, I have supported. But I'm not actively involved in the government in terms of offering or being approached for advice. That's not happening.
Okay.
And then on the lawmaker compensation, I think this was reported by somebody on Facebook. Yes, it's a lot of money, and this is a vexing issue for the Liberian people. I hope we in the legislature can pay attention to this and see what we can do.
Senator Amara Konneh, thanks so kindly for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hope it doesn't take another year before you come back. That's how we go. My name is Julius Jeh. Thanks to Blessing. Thanks to AB. Monday I'll be here. Tomorrow, Chokon Repu, the shortest Senegalese, will be here.